everybody. Welcome to the Tech Trailblazers Judges on Fire podcast series. And I am delighted to be joined today by Bertrand Garé, who is in the southwest of France and is an editor for La Informaticienne.
Great.
I've been practicing, which is an amazing French language based in Paris publication. And Bertrand has been with the Tech Trailblazers as one of our judges since the beginning, which is 2012. And I've known Bertrand for a little bit longer. And it's great to catch up with you and see you enjoying your regenerative vacation down in the southwest of France. Hi, Bertrand.
Hi, Rose. How do you do?
Oh, well, it's great to see you. So what I thought would be wonderful is if we gave our listeners a little bit of an overview about yourself, about the publication, and so they understand your background and how you will be coming at the whole judging process. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a journalist. I'm an editor-in-chief on IT Pro B2B magazine in France. L'Informaticien is really dedicated to technology and IT industry. Mm-hmm. We're not speaking about finance. We're not speaking about CIO's desire. We are really speaking about technology, what the product is, the product are, and all really that could help companies and people to use better IT. It's sometimes straightforward. The style is also to have some humor in it.
Right.
We are doing serious work without taking us seriously. That's a trademark of L'Informaticien. We have always into titles or somewhere, we have a joke. We have a joke in the articles. Because for us, IT is just a mean. It's not a goal. It means that you use IT to automate, to have a better visibility on your business, etc., to secure your data or whatever. But it's not a goal. It's just a tool.
Absolutely.
To answer different needs. That's why when I see some people which are religious on some certain technologies, speaking that containers are better than VM or mainframe is dead or whatever. No. It means that it answers and it copes with specific problems of different companies. And all the solutions at the beginning are good. After, it's the way you use it, the way you manage it, the way you adapt it to your companies that makes a difference. Mm-hmm. It's not the technology by itself. I've never seen a gun shouting by itself. There is always a guy which clenches the trigger. Technology is the same. AI is not a danger by itself. It's the way we use AI, which could be dangerous. Technology by itself is just a technology. Like COBOL versus, Java or Python. Hey, it's just a language. How you use it. That's our main interest. Last year, we launched also a dedicated magazine. We call it Cyber Risk, dedicated on IT security in the group. The group is PC Press. That's the only and the last independent press group in France on IT, on IT information. Then we are now 5 inside, with with plenty of freelancers. I try to catch the best of them in France.
Yes.
Because we want to have a really a relevant and high level of information. We don't mind even the way they write it or whatever. We want that the the level of information for our readers. And we are not nice guys. It means that when we have to say what we...
You're a very nice guy.
No, when we have to write down and to say something, we'll say it. And sometimes there could be some friction with the people which read our magazine, because they are making gloops when they read the articles. But that's the way. Second, it's now 18 years in L'Informaticien. Before I was in 01, which was the leader at this time.
Yeah.
Before I was in Logiciel and Service, which has disappeared. And I began in IT long time ago now on Grand Compte and Technology, which was one of the first magazines to speak just for the big enterprises, larger accounts, and the technology for them. Before I was in the news magazine, long time ago. Most of the time I'm the freelancer. I work also for La Tribune, which was an economical newspaper. Mm-hmm. And I begin my career of journalist in a FM radio, which was the Asian community radio on the FM band in Paris. I was very young, curly hair, not white. And yes, it was in mid 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after, because I was not enough occupied, not enough work, of course, as a chief editor, I had last year a new way, a new entrepreneurship with an analyst cabinet in France, dedicated on the French market. Where why? Because to cope with two problems in the French market. First, to give visibility and the reality of the French market, because people have just studies from everywhere, but not really the right feeling on the French market, what is going on really on the enterprises. And as a journalist and as an analyst, I've got the chance to be the receptacle to receive all these things.
Yeah.
Because more or less enterprises are still on their own world, you know. They believe on their story. They are the best. They are the leaders. And they are focusing on what the message or what they want to develop on the market. But more or less, they don't see what the others are doing. They don't look at.
Interesting.
Maybe the marketing guys, but not the others. Yeah. The sales guys just want to sign up. It doesn't mind what the others are doing. If there are better features, if they are, no. It means that they need also to see what the others are doing. And in the note, and there is also in France some specific problems or questions. For example, sovereignty, IT sovereignty is a big problem for the moment for the French market. All are looking how to cope or manage for that. Not to be the prisoner of the GAFA or Chinese Huawei and so on. Some of this is also the same problem in UK for the moment. And it becomes for Europe a real problem, a real questions. But after that, what to do with that? How I can manage to? It's not just as a cock and at a peacock and just hurling, I'm French, buy me. How I can have the right answers to my market and not just say I'm French. And that's the second part of my job as an analyst. It's also to provide them value-added content, IDs.
Yeah.
Most of them for the moment for the French market, for the French ISV or editors, for example, that doesn't have really integrates the customer success vision. They love their customers. They do everything that they want to help them and to have a good project. But it's not a process. It's not a process to have the customer experience, customer success. So consulting, when you have a prospect, in fact, they receive the RFP and the answers, but they don't engage really a dialogue as the other big ones in the IT industry are doing to really focus and to find a way to really be relevant to the RFP and to avoid the small feature that will be never used, but that makes a difference in the TikTok, in the ticking box
form. RFPs to a degree will always have an element of ticking boxes, won't they? So if those boxes aren't ticked, you won't go forward as a potential solution. So, I mean, this is very exciting, and this is something I'd definitely like to dive into a little bit deeper, a little bit later in our interview. So, looking forward to hearing more about Bijou. Looking at, obviously, your judging side of things, this is why you're particularly interesting, because you have got that deep dive knowledge. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your approach to judging, when you get the entry forms or when you go and have a look on the system online? Because the very nature of your experience, the very nature of your role as, across all of these various areas means that you actually can effectively judge across pretty much all of our categories, whether it's AI, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's fintech, whether it's storage, all of these. Yeah. Very, very well. So both a depth and a breadth of knowledge, which is fantastic. So thank you for that. So when you get your entries through, and bearing in mind, we've got two quite interesting camps. We've got the kind of the very young sort of new kids on the blocks, so who are under 2 years old and haven't had VC funding yet. So they've possibly not got an awful lot of customers, but they've certainly got a solid, in their view, product from that perspective. So you've got those fire starters, as we call them. And then we've got the ones who've kind of gone a lot further down their startup journey. So perhaps, those you talk to both of those types. What are you looking for when you...
First, in the different categories, I'm looking at first the technologies they develop. For me, the most important is the way the technologies they use to answer the problem they identified on the market. That's the equation between the two of it that interests me first. I'm not speaking about, for example, I'm not looking very deeply on the fund they raised or the valuation or whatever. It's not my interest when I'm judging. I'm really looking at the technology they have, what they develop, how it's in that equation with the problem they want to solve. That sometimes is not so relevant or so too much basic. I made some difference between fire starters.
What? Sorry?
Because it's not so relevant, or it's just trendy, or it's just 20th of that, which are doing the same thing, And I tried, in fact, in every dossier, and I'm trying to look the difference they have.
Yeah. So the USP.
What is your differentiation from all the others in the market? Mm-hmm. Why you are the best on this side? Mm-hmm. It's not for the rest. It's that's why sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed because they are just catching a train that 30 of them have already done.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe it asks some work. They have to explain the differentiation, why they are different than all the others in AI. It's not because it tells me that they have a machine learning or AI in their product. It's a good product. Tell me about the algorithm you use. Is it your own algorithm or not? Is it your just an open source that you readapt a bit?
Yeah.
Tell me really what makes you different.
Yeah.
That's for me, the most important point on the fire starter, for example. Why you are totally different than all the other startups. I think that just in Silicon Valley, there are more than 100 startups on storage. What does it make difference?
Sorry, how
just to store data.
How many did you say there were?
More than 100.
Wow. Well, we're expecting all of those, obviously, to be going for the Storage Trailblazers. So if you're listening, it's the 11th of September now. Get your entries in now. Email us at innovate@techtrailblazers.com. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at cybersecurity, that's in the thousands. So there are.
Yeah. But,
so we hope to keep you guys very, very busy in the next few months, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah. So Carol.
That's the first point. Second point, I'm looking and I give a prime on people which are not doing in their forum a really effort to explain things and not to cut and paste Control-C, Control-V what they have in the marketing or on their own websites.
Yeah.
And really people which are involved in the competition, in fact, that they want to prove something. Yeah. And not just, there is plenty of consulting prime, some helps and so on. And maybe we will get something and we just give the elements that we have in a quarter is done. No, it's a serious competition. You need to make some work. And really to attain this, then certainly one of the main problem I see in the dossier when I judge.
So in the entry forms, yeah.
Yeah, they just repeat the message that they want, but they don't adapt it. They need really to work on that and to attain the judge. For example, especially when they have to describe, for example, a customer case or something like that in the entry form. More or less, it's just a list of names. Hey, explain us. How do you do? Just choose one, the best one. Explain us. How do you solve really the problem? And not just a list of names. And I've got plenty of references. No, that's not the way. Even for me, anyway. Yeah. It's not for me. It just tells me really the things. The same thing when they need to answer some questions and how do you see the market or whatever.
Yeah.
More or less, it's not enough. It's not enough deep. Yeah. You have to really to work on that. For my part, anyway. I think that's the main problem I've seen with the entry form for the moment till the beginning, but how to change that?
Well, I think it takes time, doesn't it? And it's involvement and ensuring that your marketing team or PR team are well entrenched into what you're doing and what your vision is. I think that's the way to do
that. Because I spoke with some of them. they really engage the people. Most of them are not really doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure because I speak with some former winners and so on, that when they won, they made really the effort to do it. So it's not just on their reputation that they have the things.
Yeah, yeah.
They made a really work on it. It was quite a project for them. And not just I answer some forums and after I said that no. And most of them, that's a funny thing when you see the entry form. You see the difference in the dossier because some you have the direct mail of the CMO.
Yeah.
And the others you have the PR agency mail.
Ah, interesting. I see you've got some little tips and tricks there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Who's are we taking this? Who's actually been involved?
And when sometimes you don't really understand what they're doing or so on, you can pass 5 minutes to write a mail and saying, I don't really understand what that, etc., and it's not strange, but when you say you are a judge at Tech Trailblazers, for CMOs are answering you, especially when they are in the competition, and that's a point also to engage the dialogue with the judge. It doesn't change my advice, but I have more precision. I see that the people are engaged in the dossier also. Just to ask precision, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me? Well, it's just a mail. But often it could make a difference because it's better to give to the judge the better understanding of your solution that you could have. And not just a contact, which is very appreciable, but it means that when you give the PR contacts, you go to the PR goes to the CMO maybe doesn't have the boundaries or the time to answer you, and you've got the answer 8 or 10 days after.
So
it doesn't look that you are. It doesn't look that it's important for you.
Yeah, no, you need that engagement and prioritization of it for sure. Yeah, really good insights there, and it's nice to see because obviously from us, we're very much, as you know, I'm completely, and the rest of the team here are completely hands off in the judging process, apart from kind of going, there's the entries, what do you think? And nagging you.
Yeah.
Have you done it yet? But apart from that, we don't get involved with anything. We don't facilitate any conversations between anybody. You all do it independently. So there's no sort of like, not that anybody would influence your decision, but it's a solitary thing, although obviously maybe that's something that we need to sort of bring it about, that people do get a bit more of a conversation going around it, but obviously something where we would stand back from that and just say, hey, if you guys want to chat about this, go right ahead, but we're not getting involved with it. But it is nice to see that there is engagement, because we don't get to see that. We don't get to see that, you're sometimes pinging somebody to clarify something. And I'm sure everybody else does as well, but we don't get to hear about that. So it's really lovely to know that there is that building up of a rapport and a relationship with the contestants, with the entrants. So that's exciting.
Yeah, but it's in a way compulsory. When you see the formal list of the winners, you have to take this competition seriously. Come on, when you see till the beginning, the companies that won.
Yeah, we've got quite an interesting Hall of Fame.
It's amazing. It's amazing. When you look just, for example, in storage, all the new big names were there. Rubrik, Cohesity, they are all here.
Yeah.
They were here. That's why that you can't be in this competition just like that. It's not beach playing. Come on.
Yeah.
The competition is tough. There is big guys in it.
Yeah, we have been very fortunate. We've had Pernix Data, one of our winners, who were acquired then by one of our other winners, Nutanix.
Yeah.
Let's just have a look. Actually, thinking about this, because I do forget sometimes about how amazingly well we've done it. I mean, our first one was Smart Storage, and they were acquired by SanDisk. Solid Fire, who obviously were acquired by NetApp, for 870 million. We've got some quite nice, some good pedigree, I like to say. Got some good pedigree, which is lovely. And it's great that we're seeing this quality of contestant. And apologies to anybody who's forgotten. We will go back through that and make sure we cover you as well in the future. But I mean, that's the other thing is obviously alongside the Judges on Fire, we're also starting to have these conversations with founders and CXOs, so the CEOs, COOs, CFOs, CMOs of our winning startups as well. So we've done quite a lot because of RSA taking place, and I was over there in San Francisco, so I had the opportunity to actually meet with 3 or 4 of our winners, and we've been continuing to do that. So it is sort of very humbling to hear you say that, Bertrand. It really is, because, we put a lot of work in behind the scenes. You put a lot of work in judging it. And I know that our entrants also put a lot of work in to, show the best side of what they've all been working very hard on. So, so it's really exciting to hear and have this conversation about everything. So anyway, aside from the awards, because obviously that's going to be a bit of a burning the midnight oil for Bertrand, and we really appreciate that. And I know all the people who you review the entries of do too. But you talked about something which I didn't know you'd actually done, which is this new for you analyst service that you have kicked off, Berger. And you've got to try and really not laugh when I pronounce it, because I'm trying really hard to get my best French accent going, and I'm not doing a brilliant job of it. Oh, well, never mind. It works a lot better in the south of France with a glass of rosé and some lovely nibbles. And then I speak amazing French. The rest of the time, not so great. So anyway, so tell us what you've been up to. So last year you kicked off this new enterprise, this new endeavor. Tell us about what you're doing and help us get a little bit of a deep dive into the French startup space, which, interestingly enough, French startups are still in 3rd position in our entrance so far. So well done. Très bien. Merci beaucoup, Français. So les startups français have done a fantastic job. So hopefully that can continue. So you're beating the UK, Israel, Germany, doing very well. So keep up the good work. Not quite caught up with the US, but then they usually do steal a bit of a march on us all. But that's the joy of having a global competition. So tell us about what's happening in France. That you identified some challenges for French startups, for ISVs in France. So tell us about what you're doing.
There is 2 main problems. First is around how to be recognized on the global market. Yeah. They could be great guys in the French market, but unknown for the rest of the world. Why? For different reasons. There is some bias on the analyst side, which always favorizes the big ones, which are the big install base companies. Second, they have if we become a startup nation, as our president wants to become, we become it. We don't have enough the marketing culture. Yeah. Today in France, we are still on relying on if we had a good product, we will sell it. And they don't understand these new ways that you have to be seen, you have to be known, you have to speak loud to be chosen. They don't have it. And they have always the problem that when they decide to do it, they don't have the boundaries to do it. It means they don't have the marketing team to do it. They don't have the people and the resource to do it. That's one of the reasons I did BG Études et Conseils, to give them ideas, to provide content, to help them to construct their marketing side. On the other side, I also help companies or enterprises in the choice of their product. Because except if you want to save your budget on your big teams because you are great companies, why do you have to buy the most expensive product? Because it's a right eye on a quadrant wave or whatever. Because they don't know the other products. They need to have this help to choose a product that's fit with them. And they don't know. Sorry, that's my sister-in-law, which is just bumping in. They need some help because during the last 2 years, in fact, all of this becomes very confusing for them. They all engage on what they call digital transformation. Oh, digital transformation. All have a plan. Small, big, cosmic ones. They have all digital transformation plan. But what it means for them, how to do it. They are very confused. How I buy cloud. Sincerely, when you go to a sourcing service, even in a big company, and ask them, how do you buy a cloud service? They don't know it. They are very confused. What are the right metrics to do it? What are the right things that I have to look at?
Yeah.
It's not just to manage services as old fashion. That's not the same problem. That's not the same way. Yeah. You need really to adapt everything to these new topics, these new ways to think, these new architectures. It's not the same resources. It's not the same people. It's not the same products. It's not the same way to manage it. And they are very confused. Yeah. And they need to have this possibility to have the visibility on that to help them just to understand what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why, because of the structure of the analyst French market, that I decide to do. For the moment, it's more in the early stage. I made some notes but I have chosen to do these notes just for one customer. In fact, a customer asked me a note. I don't give them to everyone like that. They ask me a note, I write down a note, and I give them, and they use it. But it's like a tiller. It's a product for just one. It's not the big analysis of big trends or whatever.
So this is kind of a bespoke for individual organisations versus a sort of a big overview like the likes of IDC, Gartner, of
no.
So it's kind of looking at some of the stuff that perhaps the likes of the 451 do.
Yes.
India, which is formerly over.
Which I appreciate a lot. That 451 is certainly the most relevant analyst cabinet in the market. So they are very deep and very interesting studies.
Yeah.
Much more than just a big trend. No, I'm really a fan of 451.
Yeah, no, but likewise. And they actually done, as they say, imitation is the best flattery. They also have a Firestarter Awards, but then again, they are the 451, the temperature of paper burns in Fahrenheit. So I'll give them the Ray Bradbury stuff, although I may have been a fan before they were. But yeah, so yeah, we're big fans of the 451. So yeah, so there's lots of exciting stuff there. But so you're doing like a whatever the 4-5 version for France, right? That was very bad.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. But as an analyst, you always intervene as a third party. In fact, you're always outside. Yeah. And you have to give them new ideas, new ways, but I don't believe in the one size fits all.
No.
Because the context and the way the enterprise is doing is not the same that the other enterprise. It means that you need really to adapt. After, I don't believe on the percent in the market or so on, etc., etc. It's changed every quarter, and it's always declarative. That means that's people, industry people, just saying, I've done that, and that's all. And by the way, I'm not so interested in the business side, but really purely on the technology side that the companies are developing. Of course, somewhere it's still a point to the business, because it's always linked that you sell your product to companies and so on. But that's not the main point I'm looking at. Most of the companies I've seen or I work with have enough to show that they have the perennity, and they will be there in 1, 2, 3, 5 years. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. And what we see, for example, on the French market, it's a huge utilization of open source, which is it's really booming everywhere. And
so is that do you think that's fueled to a degree by the whole sort of Kubernetes and that sort of cloud native?
Not only. It's also a way to regain independence.
And you mean regain independence in what respect?
To avoid any kind of lock-in.
Okay, I see. So from the vendor, so it's being pulled.
Yeah.
Driven by the users.
You see, you can have, for example, big data. You can be on Hadoop or Spark or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I will take an example. But tomorrow Cloudera dies or go to bankrupt.
Right.
It doesn't matter, because Spark is open source. You will find a community and other people which are able to manage it and to help you to improve it. You're not dependent on a specific guy on the market. It's the same on database. It's the same on every technology now.
Do you think that
today not to be open source will be certainly the most irrelevant thing in the market?
Yeah. So, I mean, do you think that's, obviously you're talking about the French market. Do you think that's sort of a European trend? Is that? Oh,
yeah. It's a worldwide trend.
Yeah.
Even California, whatever. Most of the new products from IBM, HP, Red Hat, all the big ones, know they rely on open source bricks. That's,
open source has been around for such a long time. I kind of feel like it's not had its day on any level, but it's just like,
maybe except on workspace and even there. Open source is everywhere.
Yeah, no, true. You do tend to sort of, I guess it's just become such a part of the normal.
Yeah, it becomes a new normal.
Yeah, it is another new normal. Like, how many normals are we going to get right? I don't this new normal. I want some old normal. Right. Well, that's fascinating, and I mean, I'm sure that it would be great to, maybe find a way to, I don't know. Just thinking off the top of my head, obviously we've captured a lot of your thoughts, but if you ever want to share anything sort of through the blog about what you're seeing so that you can inform the wider startup community, both within the startups or within the ecosystems, then, feel free. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. And I mean, obviously you write primarily in French. I know you can all write very well in English, as you communicate very well in English as well. So we'd love to have your thoughts on that. Maybe we'll have a
do you remember it?
Sorry. Do
you see that?
Oh, hang on. Oh, sorry. No, I've lost my camera. Where's that gone? Oh, what's that? Yes, Sophia were also our runner-up in the early days. All good stuff. So we do share a lot of storage tales, I suppose. So, we've talked about your work life a lot, but obviously you're sitting in, your I don't know, country or seaside retreat. So tell us a little bit more about what you get up to outside of, working very hard on all of your, editorial responsibilities and this new analyst advisory capacity that you've got. What do you enjoy doing outside of the working day?
Oh, outside the working day? First, walking.
Walking?
Yeah, I love walking. Because that's the time for me to think, to plan, to dream, to be creative. And I'm ambulatory people. In fact, I do it when I walk, not when I'm sitting. Second, I like swimming, and that's why we came to southwest of France. It's not just for the sun and the rest. That's because the sea is just near, 10 minutes walk.
Wonderful.
And I play some casual games, role-playing game also. I'm in Neverwinter online. What else I do? Reading, playing chess. I love playing chess. No, I do some blitz, but I was first category when I was a youngster. I played quite a good level, and I'm still enjoying it.
Brilliant. That's quite nice to have a lifetime enjoyment of something that you did when you were a child, which is
and no, I have new plans. I want to write down a novel.
Wonderful. Aspiring novelist. You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, but no, I have to take the priority on this list.
There's a lot on there at the moment, isn't there? You're going to have to kind of find a bit more time, perhaps, for that. Well, it was interesting. Like I was thinking, we were talking before we started recording the podcast about what you were seeing in the French marketplace, about the view, the point that a lot of people have. But it did remind me.
But the French market is still the beginning of the year. Changed so quickly. For example, during a long time, French startups have the problem to go to the C on D round. To break this glass ceiling they have on the financing. And we see till last year that the round are becoming higher and higher. It means that they are leveraging. There is more possibilities for French startup to be financed by French funds and to go up. That's why we call it no more startups, but now we have this kind of scale-up people, these scale-up companies. And it becomes interesting because we see that all of this is going that some companies could be in first league and no more in second division. They will be in Premier League and not in Championship. Because for a long time, French companies were on the Championship, and they were picked up by Americans, Israeli, or the others, and to become. And today we see that they can by themselves to become big companies. Recently, quite a startup, a French startup, was bought back by a Chinese one, and it was, I know it's valued as a unicorn, quite near $2 billion. And it was interesting because it was in gaming, IT gaming, and they did pretty well, and they were quite a secret unicorn in the French market. Most of people discovered them when they were bought back.
Oh, really? So nobody knew until they were bought back?
Yeah. And that's really interesting. And today also we see that even when they are financed, the dilution rate is less important. It means that the founders stay at the head of the companies. It's very interesting. In fact, when you see, it's never a number that it's given to the journalist and the people. But the most important is not the valuation when there is an acquisition, an acquisition. Most important is what was the dilution rate of the founder of the people that are selling. It means that's how the CEO is keeping on the valuation to go on his project, or if the funds made the law in the company. That's a dilution rate, which is important.
So it's really a question of who has control of the company moving forward.
That's it. That's where the point, which is the most interesting in merger and acquisition. You're valued 1 billion, but you just sell 10% of your company. You're the king of the petroleum.
Yeah, but I mean, those are decisions that are made quite often very early on in the lifetime of a startup, and everybody can look back and go, "Well, if only I'd known." But then, if you'd have known, then you possibly, if you had that kind of vision to be able to see into the future, then you wouldn't actually need any VC funding to start off with, right? If you knew exactly the way the world was going to work, you would have all of that pat down. So it's an interesting thing, and I'm going to bring this is one of my little bugbears, so I'm going to use this opportunity to have a chat about it. And there is a fixation, I feel, and rightly so. It is very important that if you want to scale up your business, your startup, and put enough fuel in the tank and make sure it's the right kind of fuel, and you've got enough of it to not just propel you forward, but to really blast forward. To achieve your potential as an organization, as a business. But in startup land, let's say in the perception of startups, the whole conversation about funding, about VCs, about, how you get funding, how you, deal with the investor side of being in a startup is very much, I almost feel like a fixation. And I'm not saying it's an unhealthy one, because obviously it is very, very important. But I do wish, and I think this is something that you sound like you're working with startups on, is looking at making sure you got your product right, making sure you've actually able to unlock what I consider one of the most important investment partners for any organization is your customers. So if you can get a good sales pipeline, if you can get ambassadors for your brand in big companies.
But the problem of the French startups that they don't know the stealth mode because they need money quickly. It means that compared to the US or Israeli companies, they don't use enough stealth mode to have this minimal viable products to show for the customers. You need sometimes 2-3 years of stealth mode to develop the right product. And then after, you can add something to show. The second step is to catch up a big customer, a big reference. It's always the same process, You need to have this minimal viable product. Second, big reference. Third, you go to financing. You raise up. And you, from your minimal viable product, with your customers, you develop the right features for them. And the problem today is that they work on the product. I've seen startup which has a product version 0 and never goes to version 1.
Yeah.
Because they don't follow this process. You need to have a minimal viable product to show. It means that's for 1-2 years, maybe 6 months if you're very clever and you have good resource and genius in development. But you need to have a minimal viable product to show. And not looking at all the financing round and just showing slides. You need to have really showing something. And the problem of the French startup that they are more in the hype ways and not enough on the stealth mode to develop good products for the moment, anyway.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to raise up money for the moment. There is liquidity everywhere. People which are looking to invest in everything. Even in Facebook or in LinkedIn, you've got advertising asking you to invest in the next unicorns. It's amazing. It becomes just a business as the other.
So you don't think that funding's an issue for tech startups in France?
No more, because we have more and more funding. We have a quite dedicated BPI, which is a bank for investments.
Okay.
BPI France, which is specialized to invest in the startups.
Is that a government-led thing or is that private?
No, it's government. It's from government. It's public. You've got also StoreNext, which is it's a market as a CAC 40, but for 131 startup, which are on the market today. It means that there is plenty of it. No, there's no more a problem to find the money. After it's a way you depend on the product, the trends, the people etc., and the work you have to do. But since there is not so much a problem to raise money for the moment. For the moment, I would say.
Well,
because I think that this inflation in the startup market will have certainly some drawbacks, and not all the companies will know the success, I would say.
Well, there's always going to be those that don't.
Yeah, but it could be have some disappointment and to have a counter wave. You say, too dangerous. Too dangerous.
Well, that's my view. That's like decentralized and centralized IT. It's like miniskirts and maxi skirts. It's almost like a fashion that you go one way is, you really want a miniskirt? That looks great. And then the next thing, it's maxi. It's great. Blah, blah, blah. It just, if nothing's perfect. So you go to one thing, it isn't perfect. So you go back to the next thing, the previous thing, and that's it's almost like you move back and forth between the appetite for investment to then flipping over to actually that's a bit risky.
But it's somewhere also a social problem, Rose. How do you make progress in a company? It's to become manager. When you don't progress in a company and you think you deserve it, what you're doing, entrepreneurship. And today with auto entrepreneurship and so on, you have all the possibilities to become entrepreneur tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's why there is this wave and this hype around entrepreneurship. I don't think that old people, even me, are made for that.
Yeah.
It's a new, it's a different way of mind than when you are in a company and working 9 to 5 and or maybe more, because whatever, it's always more. Another legend that we have in France, it's 35 hours that I want to, because everybody says that the French are lazy.
Not everybody. Not everybody.
35 hours are the
lazy.
It's the basis.
Those racist tones that are baited there.
It's the basis. I will just say that the 35 hours, it's a basis on what you're paid every month. It's 35 hours per week. That's the basis to be paid. But as a chief editor and all my colleagues, and when you have become manager, you're much more at 50 or 60 hours a week than 35. Let's say that we are paid on 35, but we work 60.
So that's just very good for business, isn't it? You only pay people for 35 hours, but they're doing double that. That's really worked out the way it was supposed to, is it? That's not.
Yeah, but that's why in every statistics, French are still the best productivity per hour in the world. It's not because we are so magic in 35 hours. No, we are doing the job in 60, but we are just paid for 35.
Paid for the 35, is it?
Yeah, that's all. That's why I wanted to say it, because no, don't worry. French people are working a lot.
Absolutely. Well, I know you work very hard. So thank you so much for sharing all of this. It's been fascinating. I mean, we've known each other for years. But it's always nice to have an excuse to chat and to find out about some of the new stuff that you're doing and share some insights with our potential entrants about what you're going to be looking out for, and because you could be in any of our categories, everybody has to listen to you. Everybody has to listen. But
every year, I'm speaking with some French companies to be sure that they please go on. You know, it's not,
very welcome.
Because to go to this competition is not the possibilities that you have with consulting or whatever, the price that you can win. It's the best way and the quickest way to have a global and worldwide recognition of your company to enter this competition. And when you see the panel of judges and so on, you will see that it's amazing the possibility it can have to be known in every part of the world. Because you're just doing a competition to show up your technology, to show up what your reference are, and so on and so on. It's an amazing possibility for every company.
Well, we'd very much like to hope so. That's our endeavour. I'll say in a very nice way.
Sincerely. That's for example, in the informal edition, I discovered some people, some ISV from South Africa, which were specific on the mobile payment and so on, which were really amazing people. Amazing companies, amazing technologies, and or from Brazil, or from Israel, from every part of the world. I remember also an IoT company from Austria or Germany, which have done an amazing technology for IoT, and
it's
really and it's really a good opportunity, a fantastic opportunity for all companies and startups to be shown up. And when you are 5 years old and so on, it's a fabulous way to show how you have done 5 years. Really, that's why I'm so faithful to to be a judge, because every year I discover new gold pivots and new gold things. Really, it's amazing.
Brilliant. Well, we love having you to be part of the Tech Trailblazers tribe, Bertrand. We really do. And it's a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us from the southwest of France. And, testimony that we really, really are a global platform and a global competition, because we do want to attract, those that are doing amazing stuff wherever they're based and wherever they're from. If they're doing stuff in enterprise tech, from AI through to storage, we'd like to know about them. So thank you, Bertrand. Really a pleasure. So thank you, everybody, for joining us again for the Tech Trailblazers Judges on Fire. That was Bertrand Garé from La Informaticienne.
Yeah, you got it now.
Yes. I will get there in the end. I'm going to be practicing that. So thank you very much. And again, thank you for joining us. We've covered some amazing topics. We've taken a deep dive into Bertrand's thinking around how he judges, got a great insight into the man himself, and also got some really interesting insights into what's happening in the French startup system. So that's brilliant. So let us know what you think. We'll make sure that the transcript includes who Bertrand is and where he is, and so you can check that out in a bit more detail. And also, if you have enjoyed what you've heard, then please leave us a wonderful review and subscribe to the newsletters so you keep up to date with the podcasts as we're doing them. So you can sign up on the techtrailblazers.com website for that, and follow us on social media at Tech Trailblaze on Twitter, and you'll find us as Tech Trailblazers on LinkedIn.
I think I'm already a subscriber on Twitter.
Yeah, I hope you are, Bertrand. Checking after the show. Thank you, Ben, and enjoy the rest of your vacances down in the southwest of France. And hopefully we'll see you either in the States or in London or in Paris very soon. Thanks again, Bertrand.
I hope so. Take care. Bye all.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.